Dr. Glass by me, Louise Worthington. Chapter 1. Under the canopy of a sycamore tree, the world is a kinder place. Between the Cumbrian hills, a woman and child are in a hollow, a gentle curve where the roots of the sycamore tree laid its foundations. She sees them in a paradise, a Garden of Eden, a place where they will return to innocence. The finely spun shadows under her eyes hint at the deranged truth, as does her unblinking gaze across the grass and thistle, all the way to an exposed section of Hadrian's wall. The sycamore tree creaks. Is the sap rising, she wonders, and the not knowing unsettles her. The muted tones of the landscape give her no clue as to the season. Mother Nature's kind. She knows we are good. "What are you staring at?" she suddenly shouts at the blank stare of a ewe. It bleats and runs in the opposite direction, trailing pieces of candy floss fleece wrapped in thistles. She moves further under the sycamore tree like a wild creature seeking camouflage and places a hand on its reassuring trunk. The canopy of the sycamore is a perfect roof for us. Her shoulders drop a little, reassured now that she has done the right thing. Desperately trying to recall something about the long journey from home, she pushes her hair away from her face. Then a smile washes over her pinched features. Little Bear pointed out the lorries on the motorway. He said which colour they were and how their wheels were like huge grapefruits. The smaller ones, he said, were like tangerines, his favourite fruit of all. It was only last year when Little Bear said each word like he was peeling an apple or unwrapping a conker from its protective case. Each new word was a poem. All those objects he's named, she sees them lined up on a shelf stretching out along Hadrian's wall, running like a stitch through the open wound of the earth. Rope, tree, daddy. When she wraps an arm around Little Bear's legs and rubs a cheek against his thigh, the smell of washing powder, always jasmine and lavender, pulls at something in her insides. A hand clamps to her mouth to stifle a sob as she recalls how he had needed the toilet during the journey, and she had refused to stop. He had wet himself on the back seat and sobbed. I made him cry. How could I do such a thing? She makes a fist and hits herself hard in the face. A twig snaps underfoot as she stumbles backwards, knocking Little Bear and making his legs swing. I'm sorry, love, sorry, my beautiful, brave boy. She brought his hand to her face, soft fingers on her cheek, and recalls the lotions applied to his skin to stop the sun from burning his tender flesh. The moisturiser in the winter when it became dry, the calamine lotion when he had chicken pox, an ointment to grazes. His hand fits perfectly inside hers like a jigsaw piece. She sees herself back in the kitchen, telling Little Bear to put on his shoes, stained a little with mud now. She had tried so hard to be a wonderful mother. Did she put the milk back in the fridge? It was the rushing that made her forget. They had to get out of the house quickly. Someone had upset her, a woman, a messenger from hell. Was there blood? No, just pain. Little Bear had fallen towards the earth's floor. His last words weren't goodbye. He knew the word for rope, but not noose. A noose. A snake coiled into a ring. She told him to enter the noose, to step inside like stepping into a new world, a magic world where the sky is pink and the grass is blue and where they will be together forever. A place where the stars will love them, butterflies too, and moths and birds will sing a lullaby just for them. He stood there so patiently, so trusting on the stepladder, waiting for the colours to change. She told him that everything will sparkle and twinkle like Santa's grotto. There will be no shadows. It will be a bright gouache painting come to life. A handprint painting, like they had made on the kitchen table. As she said those things to her darling son, the birds kept singing. Not one dropped from the sky, not a branch from the beautiful tree. So that proved it. She had done the right thing. The only thing a loving mother could do in her position. Don't let the coffin flies come, she whispers, or the birds' beaks, she peers at the sky, or flesh-eating beetles. How wide the sky is. Or is it just that Little Bear is so small? Don't even think about how he will never grow an inch taller. How those white sneakers on his feet will be his last pair of shoes. All those trips to shoe shops over the years. His favourite pair, kept beside the fridge in the kitchen, always with the laces still tied, because he hadn't learnt to tie them yet. Now she remembers there is tomato sauce splattered on the side of one of those shoes. The rope swings in the breeze. The shadow of him is still alive, a smudge on the earth, moving closer to her, then further away, a swinging bell. They had bells at their wedding, yes, the peals went on for a long time. She puts her hand in her mouth and bites down until the skin gives way to the taste of iron. There was a time before this, a time before the messenger came and told her what she had to do, before marriage, before motherhood, but not so long ago, like a different self. What day is it, little bear? It feels important to know. She visualises the calendar hanging on the kitchen wall, where she records important dates and where ticks mark that she has taken her medication. Wednesday, she says, pleased with herself for remembering. And the date? Her jaw clenches in frustration at her failing memory. Little Bear looks as though a white wax candle has dripped down his angelic face. So, she lightly runs her hand over his eyes, closing the lids on the blood inside. The trunk is sturdy, so unlike her own weariness, her withered core. The sycamore tree is breathing, but he is not. Sad to think tomorrow and the day after, the grass under our feet will keep growing. She must not rush now, so he isn't alone any longer. The rope is rough in her hands. After placing it around her neck, she touches Little Bear's small hand one last time and looks to his face for all the answers to all the questions she's ever had. A look like water to a plant. The ewe bleats, and in its pitiful sound she hears kinship and understanding of her fellow mother. Her blank stare meets the horizon, one impervious to everything except the corpse dangling on her right. The beauty of the wild landscape is out of focus as the pain of confused thought and penitence takes hold. She licks her dry lips. There is nowhere else to go now, except down. Little Bear's white trainers point back to the way they came from, where there is no return. He is nothing now but a target and a shadow to fall into. And fall she did.